Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Digital Wait. Happy New Year 2020. As we enter New Year, I just want to take a minute to wish you, your family, and your church and your ministry a happy, prosperous, blessed, focused, fruitful, and a purpose driven New Year. Have a fantastic year ahead. God bless you. Now let's move on. Welcome to this week's edition of the Connected Church News for leaders of nonprofits, churches, and faith-based organizations. I'm Natchi Lazarus, and this week we have news from Facebook, Google, Twitter, YouTube, and a news item about social media being banned for military personnel. This is a show where we bring you the top 5 digital and social media news you need to know for this week in less than 5 minutes. Let's get started. Our first news of this week is from YouTube. YouTube has added a new feature called Assisted Trim, which will help YouTube creators remove certain portions of their video that might have a copyright claim. Now, this feature will let creators trim out that section alone and leave the rest of the video when they have a copyright strike. Copyright strikes are something that you need to pay attention to if you're using YouTube, because YouTube takes copyright claims seriously and your video might be affected in its performance or monetization, or it might even end up being taken down if there are copyright claims. So a tool like this could be useful where you can trim that part alone, because I know in ministry settings sometimes unintentionally certain portion gets included, say in a sermon or a message, which might have a copyright claim. So if you can trim that part alone and leave the rest of the message which you want to convey to your audience, then that could be helpful. So do check out. Our next news is from Facebook. Last week, Facebook added new features to instant articles for publishers. Facebook wants to house as much news items from publishing houses as possible. So they have been adding new features. There's a lot of news about Facebook being intentional in working with publishers. So in that path, now Facebook has added 2 important enhancements. One is when people read a story from a publisher, they will have a button, a dedicated navigation at the bottom that will allow people to click on, say, a more button where they can read additional stories. Now they read one story, then they can read more stories from the same publisher by clicking that button. And Facebook is also giving them a call to action facility where they can add a CTA button and let people take action, like being added to the publisher's email newsletter and so on. Our next big news of this week is about social media being banned for military personnel. Last week, CNBC reported that US Army bans TikTok following guidance from the Pentagon. And the Army spokeswoman was quoted saying, "It is considered a cyber threat. We do not allow it on government phones." And on another news from India, Indian Navy bans social media channels like Facebook and even smartphones on military warships and on naval bases. Our next news is about Twitter. Twitter seems to be coming up with multiple enhancements for their Twitter lists and topics and many design elements. Last week, their design and development team talked about all of this in an interview, and it seems like they are enhancing certain things like activity details and location sorting and so on. So I know there are many nonprofits and ministries that use Twitter very actively, especially Twitter lists. So if you are one of them, I highly recommend you check out this interview, which has a lot of details about how Twitter is approaching the new year and the kind of changes that they're bringing to their design. Our final news of this week is from Google. Last week, Google's digital wellbeing team released an interesting article that I wanted to bring to your notice. And this article talks about how to use technology in a way that will make you healthier with respect to your relationship with your smartphone and technology in the coming New Year 2020. As leaders of ministries and nonprofits, it's important for us to not let technology and smartphones become a distraction or get in the way of progress. So that way, this article has a lot of interesting suggestions based on research. They had spoken to more than 100,000 people, and they have got inputs and insights that they have used to come up with these suggestions on how you can use, for example, use a smartphone to get on a focused mode when you're working, and also have a wind down routine and have a healthy digital life. So do check it out. Even though it's for Android, I'm sure it's also applicable for iPhone users and anyone who is wanting to have a digital well-being in the coming year. Well, that's all we have for you this week. Thank you for joining me. I really appreciate your time. If you like to dig deeper into any of the stories we talked about, you can access all the source links and details in our news page, nachilazarus.com/news. Do check it out. I will see you next week with another set of news items. Until then, stay connected, stay blessed. And once again, my team and I wish you a wonderful, happy New Year 2020. God bless you. Bye-bye.